Welcome back to another exciting video. And what we're talking about today are the 4 different types of harmonics on guitar, what they are, and how to play them. Yes, that is correct. Another video on harmonics because God knows we do not have enough running around YouTube. But in my defense, I've been, I've seen a couple of videos coming across about harmonics, and, it's all the same stuff. A lot of guys doing, this is how you play them, and I'm going to show you how to play them just in case this happens to be the only harmonic video you come across. But we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into them, and we're going to talk about the 4 different kinds of harmonics, and we're going to spend most of our time on natural harmonics. That's by far the biggest category and probably the ones we use the most as guitar players. Now, if you are a metaler, a rock and roller, then obviously a lot of us do, a tremendous amount of pinch harmonics. But we still use natural harmonics constantly in our guitar playing. And I've never really seen anybody go into too deep of a dive on natural harmonics because there's a lot more going on than what you think. So on that note, let's get started. So what is a natural harmonic? Okay, your guitar has many, many tones, as most stringed instruments do. And case in point, if you go up to a piano and you strike the keys really hard, a good grand piano, you're going to hear all these overtones ringing through the piano. And even the good digital pianos like my CP300, if you hit the strings hard, since these sounds are sampled, you can hear those overtones. Well, that's kind of what a harmonic is. It is an overtone of the strings of the guitar. So what you have basically is you have your fundamental tone on a guitar, which is this. That is your fundamental tone. Anything else you hear ringing besides that are overtones, which are essentially harmonics. Now, what we have 4 different kinds, and we have the natural harmonic, we have artificial, which we really don't use that much, but I'll explain them, what they are and how to use them. Then we have tapped harmonics and pinch harmonics, and you should pretty much know what all these are if you're watching this video. So, like I said, when you hit your guitar, when you just hit the strings, that is the fundamental tone of the string. And even if you fret it off, that's still the fundamental tone of those strings. What a harmonic is, it is essentially an overtone of that string. So if we hit right here in the center at 12, and everybody here should know this, if we hit that lightly and we lift our finger off, that gives us an overtone, that gives us a harmonic. And they all do it. And of course, how you do it, I'm just going to go ahead and cover it because I like to make my videos as thorough as I can. So all you do is you take your finger and you just touch it. If this is the string, you touch it very lightly, you don't fret it. You just touch lightly on the string and pop your finger off as you pluck it. And that creates an overtone. Now what we have here is this is the same note. This, if we're doing on the A string at the 12th fret, that is the same note as our fundamental tone. There's our fundamental tone. Here's our harmonic. And it's the same note. And it works for all these at the 12th fret. So, we were playing a song. We do a Barracuda. And this is kind of where this whole thing's coming from. We were playing Barracuda. We play Barracuda in my band. And, on Barracuda, it starts with the, it's got the gallop pick at the beginning. Then it has the F sharp G. But then they hit this set of harmonics. And I never really thought about it too much until I got to a different song, which I'll get to in a second. But we were playing the song, and I was listening to that, and I play this on a very heavy channel, a little more modern, to give you an idea what the channel we played on. Let me find this. Boom. Now, it's very gainy, but you know what? I like a lot of gain. If you don't like a lot of gain, then, well, I feel bad for you because gain rules. But I was listening to that when we were playing it, and I was like, well, hang on. G. The hell, that sounds like a G chord. And these are things that I've always known, but I never thought about them until just the other day. So I thought, well, hang on. What is a G chord? If you understand theory and what intervals are, and if you do not, again, this is a great chance to watch my video on intervals. And I am going to be doing a newer video on intervals because when I did a long time ago, a couple of years ago. And well, my channel is only a couple of years old. A couple of years ago, and so I'm going to do a new one, a little more updated, probably go into just maybe a little more detail. But intervals are the key to music. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, case in point, my wife's always wanted to learn how to play piano. And I'm teaching her songs. The best way to learn an instrument is by learning songs. So since my band does the Journey song, Separate Ways, and it's hard for me to play both parts, which I currently do. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to teach her how to play Separate Ways. And so, but when I was explaining the major scales, because when I teach music, I also teach theory. When I was explaining the major scale, it kept blowing. Why is this sharp? Why are we hitting this black key? Why is this black key a sharp and why is this black key a flat? And that kept confusing the hell out of her. And then finally I told her, I said, listen, all these are great questions. These are things that you're going to understand. But what's most important right now is understanding the interval. That is the most important thing because all these notes are going to change all the time, depending on the key you are, but the intervals will never change. So it's very important to understand the intervals. So I diverted a little bit from our topic, but what we're going to be doing here, also, it's very important to understand the intervals. So back to what we were doing. So when I was hitting that chord, let me go to a clean channel here. And I thought, well, that sounds like a G. Well, if you take your strings and you count them, E, A, D, G, B, E, okay, well, what is a G chord? Well, there again, if you understand the theory of it, you have G, which is your root, and it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G. A is your second, B is your third, all right? So we have our root and our third. C, D is our fourth, our fifth. And I was like, well, hang on. E, A, D, G, B. That's a G chord. That's why it sounds exactly the same to me. And like I said, these are things I've always known. I've just never really thought about it. So we're playing the song when we hit that. Well, that's a G chord. And I thought, well, that's just brilliant. But why does this sound equally as good and in key? Well, here's the cool thing about intervals, and these are the things I never really thought about until I got onto the second song that really kicked this off. All right, so that second song just happened to be Poundcake by Van Halen because I was playing Poundcake, and if you know how the song Poundcake goes, I'm just going to use this very heavy channel for this. This is not the correct channel you would use for this song, but if you know how the song Poundcake goes, and I was like, well, hang on. That sounds really cool. And everything seems to be fitting. What is going on here? Are these guys just hitting all these notes arbitrarily? Are they just playing around and saying, you know what, let's just hit these notes, then we'll hit these notes, then we'll hit this one up here, and it'll sound cool? Or do they actually have a method behind what they're doing? So that took me deeper down the rabbit hole, and I started breaking all this down. And I thought, hang on, there's so much more to this than I've ever really thought about. So let's think about it. So back to Barracuda real quick. After we come off that G, and then we hit this G chord harmonic at the 12th, then we hit this one up here at the 7th. And I thought, well, that sounds all to be in key. So check this out. If we're here, go back to a clean channel. If we're here at 12, hang on, we have our fundamental tone. We have our first set of harmonics at the 12th. When we go up here to the 7th, these are perfect fifths of whatever the string is that you're playing. So if we go to let's go to our G string again, E, A, D, G. We hit our G, This is actually a D. That is a perfect fifth of this string. And I thought, well, okay, that's why it all sounds the same to me when I do this, because of this G chord. These are the fifths of these notes that I'm plucking. So it makes sense. That's why it sounds so good. Fantastic. All right. Well, that explains a lot of that. But what happens when we move on? Well, here's the really cool part. If you break this down by what we've got here, let's say we take this E, and we have our fundamental tone, our harmonic. We go up to the seventh, we have a fifth. Well, when we go up to the fifth, we have another root harmonic, which in this case would be E, 2 octaves up. So at 12, we have an E. Here we have a perfect fifth. At 7, here we're up another octave. We're up 2 octaves up from this. We're up another octave, and it's another E. But when we go to the fourth, a little harder to hit on a clean channel. That's actually a major third at the fourth. Then when we go to the third, very hard to hit on a clean channel, but you can hear it. That's actually another major, another perfect fifth, another octave up. So I thought, well, hell, this is brilliant. I never even thought about this. So we have our fundamental tone, our first, an octave up. We have our fifths. We have another octave of our fundamental tone. We have a major third right here. Hard to hit on clean strings at the fourth. Then when we go to the third, we have another octave up of a perfect fifth. Now we have harmonics all over the guitar neck. If we go here at the ninth, these I never really use. And they're again on a clean channel. You can hear them. I got to kind of really hit them hard. This is also a major third, which is that. So it is a major third. So if you look at this by the string, each string here, and let's say this string E, well, let's not say this string E has a root, a third, a major third, and a perfect fifth of E. Well, this A has a root, a major third, and a perfect fifth of A, and so on and so on. So I thought, well, God, why did I never think about this? Because now this opens a lot of possibilities for hitting key tones when instead of just randomly hitting harmonics, and be honest, we all do it. We just, go out there playing and we just start randomly hitting harmonics if they're in key or not, and which is fine because they become passing tones and they work just as well. Case in point, when we're playing Barracuda, I do this a lot of times when I come off that. Out of key like crazy, but they work because they're passing tones, so they sound really good doing that. But if I wanted to hone this in and really give my key center a little more strength, now I understand the premise of harmonics. It's not just a bunch of random tones floating around the guitar. They all have a very specific note assigned to them. And like I said, each string has its own root, major third, and perfect fifth in multiple places on the neck. Now, it's the same principle when you go up here. Like if we go to 12 here, it's the same principle. It's basically when you start at 12 and you move this way, it kind of repeats itself going to both sides. So we're really going to concentrate from 12 down. No reason to keep repeating myself going up the neck. But it works the same way as going this way from 12 as opposed to going this way from 12. So the one that really got me thinking about this the most, though, like I said, was Poundcake by the great EVH. So it does this, this little, and then we have these harmonics here, and it sounds really, really, really good. And I never really thought about it. And, he's just hitting random harmonics. He's Eddie Van Halen. He can do whatever he wants. Well, no, actually, there is a method to what he's doing. He's not just randomly hitting harmonics and notes. This song is actually in E major. And what we're hitting here is all these notes, these octaves, harmonics. Oh my God, I'm going to get this. I'm probably going to say harmonies 1,000 times. So if I say harmonies, I mean harmonics. So what we're doing is we're hitting this on the E string. We're doing the fourth one at the fourth, which just happens to be a G sharp, which is the major third of E. And the song is in E. Well, that wouldn't be E, but that would be E. Now, the next ones we're hitting are at the 5th fret, and it's an A, because remember, this is 2 octaves up from our fundamental tone of this. A, D. And if you think about this in terms of the scale, all right, so let me clarify this real quick. This song is in E major, and the E major scale has 4 sharps in it. All right, it does have a D sharp in it. So since we're playing an E chord and the E, we can play that D, be a natural D. And it's not really going to change the tonality of the song because we're keeping what is very critical here, which is that major third. So what he's doing here is he's playing this major third, an A, D, and we're playing a major third, then we're playing a B, which is our perfect 5th. So he's outlining that G chord very well because he does have our perfect 5th and he does have the major third on it. So I thought, oh my God, this is just absolutely brilliant. And I never thought about it in terms of that until this revelation hit me. We started with Barracuda. Well, why does that sound exactly like it sounds? Why does it sound so good? Well, because they meant to make it sound good. When they were doing Barracuda, they just didn't randomly say, well, let's just hit some harmonics here, 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 and be done. There was a method to it. So, but let me take this a little further. And this is actually really, really cool. And this is part of the brilliance of Eddie Van Halen. So like I said, when we're doing this E, right there, that is an E minor. And I thought that is absolutely freaking brilliant. Now, why are we getting away with this? Even though the song's in E, and we're doing this with an E major here, but we're doing it the other part, and we're actually doing an E minor. Why is that working? Because we're playing a D5 chord. Even though the song's in D major, we're not denoting that major third when we're actually playing the chord. We're just playing the root and the 5. So the chord's not leaning either minor or major. So that leaves you a little leeway to play around with that major or minor third. And this is a perfect example of it in this song, and again, the brilliance of Eddie Van Halen. Absolutely amazing. So that really got me thinking about all this. And now, like I said, it has opened so many doors because I've never really thought of harmonics in terms of its note value. I always thought of it as, well, you just hit a bunch of damn harmonics. And like I said, be honest, we all do that. We all do that. And if you say you don't do that, well, then maybe you're a damn liar. Just got to call it is like it is, bro. Got to do it. But regardless of all that, I was one of the ones. I just randomly hit harmonics, and they're passing tones. They're always going to sound kind of good. It's a different sound the way they ring. I never really thought about the science behind it, what was actually happening, the notes assigned to it until these 2 songs, when I just started thinking about these 2 songs, which is amazing how we do that. You just lay there and start thinking. I think about the most obscure things, and I'm laying in bed and I start thinking, why does that harmonic on Barracuda sound like a G chord? Even though I know that this is what the names of the strings are, and that all these harmonics at the 12th fret were the same as a string, I never put 2 and 2 together till the other day. So what I did As I threw together this little chart, this will be up on my Patreon page, and it kind of breaks everything down for you and shows you what all these fundamental tones are on the key aspects of the guitar and where they're played at and what the notes are. But even if you don't need this chart, the easiest thing to understand, and I'm going to do this one more time real quick, and like I said, the simplicity is brilliant. If we take our E, we have our fundamental tone, our harmonic, an octave up. Here we have a perfect fifth at the seventh. At the fifth, we have our fundamental tone 2 octaves up. At the fourth, we have a major third. At the third, we have another perfect fifth 2 octaves up. And at ninth, we have a major third. So if you think about it from that aspect, well, there's all kinds of really cool things you could do. For instance, if we're playing a song in the key of G, we could go down to our G string and we could play all these harmonies. There we go. These harmonics. And be totally in key. But if we went to the D string, we could actually play all those harmonics and be perfectly in key, because on the D string, what is the third? An F sharp. And the key of G has an F sharp in it. So we could actually play those in the key of G and be totally fine, and all those will be absolutely in perfect key at any time. And so now, like I said, it's just opened all these doors. I'm like, wow, I never really thought, after all these years of playing, why I've been missing this whole time. And there may be thousands of you guys out there that have, well, hell, dude, I knew that all along. But I didn't. You know, I might not be the brightest bulb in the box, but I'm still a bulb in the damn box. So if you don't want to get the chart off my Patreon page, we'll just run over this real quick one more time. We have our fundamental tone, our root, harmonic. Here we have a fifth. Here we have a root, third, fifth. Then you have another third here. And it goes the same way going back up the neck too, but very seldom do we hit harmonics up here unless you're just, I don't know, think you're Steve Vai or something, and then go for it. By all means, knock yourself out. So that is my summary on natural harmonics. And like I said, absolutely brilliant. And if it wasn't for the magic of Eddie Van Halen and his brilliance, I would never have jumped down that hole and started putting all this together, because now it just adds a whole other layer to my playing, because now I can hit harmonics, and if I'm playing something in E major, now I know what to hit to absolutely outline that E major chord or an A major chord or whatever it may be. So it's pretty cool. Check it out. All right, now we're going to move on. Now, these other ones that we're going to cover pretty quick, I've already done all the explaining. The hard part is done. But now we're going to move on to artificial harmonics. Now, artificial harmonics and tapped harmonics are basically the same thing. The difference being a tapped harmonic is tapped. An artificial harmonic is plucked. Now, I do not use artificial harmonics because I suck at them. Very, very bad. And what it is you find your note, let's say we're here at the C. We're just going to move our harmonic up here to 15. So what you do is you grab your pick and you put your finger over that 15 and you pluck and pull your finger off at the same time, which gives you that harmonic. Now, it's a lot of setup for me to do it this way. Now, maybe if I picked with these two fingers, it would be much easier, but I do not. I pick like this. Now, I have seen guys who are brilliant at this, guys who have their fingernails growing out, classical guys that are absolutely brilliant at this, because they'll pluck with their thumb and they'll just, as they move around, absolutely brilliant. A little harder to do like this when you got to roll these fingers back. But that is a artificial harmonic. And like I said, anywhere you fret it off, move up 12, and then there's your artificial harmonic. But there is a little more to it than that. Wait, there's more. So tapping harmonics is so much easier, and it's basically the same thing as an artificial harmonic. But with an artificial harmonic, you pluck and you touch. With a tapped harmonic, you simply tap. Now, the big difference between the two is if you do use somewhat medium gain and higher, a tapped harmonic is going to get noisier than a plucked and artificial harmonic. But that just comes with what it is. And if you don't want it to be as noisy, you can do a couple of things. You can either put a wrap on it, which I have a wrap on my J Custom. I do not have it on this guitar. Or you can do it on a turn your gain down a little bit and, then start, tapping a little harder, smacking the string. How you do a tapped harmonic is go back here to C, and you just tap 12 frets higher. And it's literally that simple. And that gives us a tapped harmonic. Now, what you don't do is you don't slam the string and fret it, because that's what's going to happen. You just tap the string. And that creates an overtone when you do that. All right, now back to the artificial harmonics. And everything I said, you remember when I said at the beginning that each one of these strings has its own fundamental tone, its fundamental tone, then it has its overtones, which just happens to be the root, major third, and the fifth of that particular string. Well, here's the cool thing about guitar and why guitar is such a fun instrument to play. Let's say we take this A, and of course we have our fundamental tone, then we have our root, fifth, root, major third, and our perfect fifth again. So if we grab a C here on the fifth string, third fret, now remember what I said about all the open strings. Each string has its own set of overtones. You have your fundamental tone and your overtones, which just happen to be roots, major thirds, and fifths. Well, if we go up here and we grab the C, the same principle still applies. If we got the C and we go up to 15, that is our root 1 octave up. If we jump up here, that is our major, our perfect fifth. If we go up, that just happens to be our octave 2 up now. And we keep moving up, then we have our major third. A little harder to hit that one. But now we have our perfect fifth again, 2 octaves up. Well, guess what? All these now are in C's. These are all roots, thirds, and fifths of this chord C. So they're all C, D, E, F, G's. They're all C, E, G's. So there again, to where if I'm hitting an A string, I can hit all those and I can outline my A chord. Well, if I'm holding this C and I tap all these out, I can outline my C chord. And that in itself is absolutely brilliant. And like I said, again, the great Eddie Van Halen is the one who got me going down this hole. Because, how many times have we watched him do this, How many times have we watched him do that and never really, okay, well, that's really cool, But now I know what he's doing and why he does it. And that to me was just absolutely brilliant. And like I said, the way you do a tapped harmonic is you can't tap it too hard. And that's why it's called tapped, not a pushed, not a drive your finger through the neck harmonic. It is a tapped harmonic. You tap the string. And the same principle applies. You go 12 up, you go 7. Granted, this is a 7, but if we were in an open string, this would be our 7. This would be our 5, 4, and our 3. But since we've fretted it off at the third, now we have to shift everything 3 frets this way. So our A, 12. If we go up 3 frets, we grab the C, we're up 3 frets. We move this up 3 frets. That's our 12 at C. Absolutely fantastic. So now we're going to cover the last part of harmonics. And before I get into this, I've got to say, please subscribe to my channel. Subscribing is free. It doesn't cost you a thing. If you do like the video, please share the video. Please like the video. Please send it out to everybody you know, because that truly helps my algorithm fantastically. And if you want to help support the channel to do what I do, then jump over to my Patreon page. I'll be the first to admit that I haven't been exactly up to par on my Patreon page because just a million things going on. And so trying to get it to the point where I can put out 2 or 3 videos a week. Trying to get to that point. But this will be on my Patreon page. And as well as this video will go up on my Patreon page a day or two before it actually goes to my YouTube channel. All my videos will start going up there first for a multitude of reasons. Because I like to watch them back on YouTube, because sometimes when I'm editing, sometimes I miss mistakes. But if I stick it on my Patreon page first, if anybody is on my Patreon page, it gives them a chance to see it first, but it also gives me a chance to really sit and watch it. And just if I got to make any final last minute edits. So there's the other thing. And real quick, I know it's been a few weeks since I've put a video up, a couple of weeks at least, because I am changing my podcast room, which is in the other room in there, my music stuff. All this stuff is going upstairs. So we've been working on that. So that has kind of had me behind on getting my videos out regularly. So, but hopefully after Tuesday, I will be back on track, because that's when we're doing the, Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll be doing the complete setup in that room up there. So back to what we were doing. Please subscribe to my channel now. So anyway, so the last one's pinched harmonics. Now in pinched harmonics, we're not going to go through fundamental tones and overtones and all that, because that's nearly impossible, and we would be here for the next 72 years trying to cover it. Because on a pinched harmonic, there's so many different things happening, and there's so many different things going on that will change the note drastically. And to give you an example, the best thing to do is find out where you like to play pinched harmonics. But depending on where you play it here, depends on what the note is that you're hitting. And that's why I said, I can't sit here and tell you what all the notes are, because I don't know where you're going to be doing your pinched harmonics from. And B, very little changes make very big differences. And as you can hear, I mean, you can hear all the differences just in that. So sitting here saying, well, this is a D, I can't do that, because if you do it here, it's no longer a D. But what we are going to cover is a couple of fundamentals on pinched harmonics. Okay, so the first thing you got to do is, like I said, find out the best place where you pick and the best place for you to hit your pinched harmonics. For me, the way I play is I pick right here in front of this second pickup. It's not in between. It's a little bit in front of, if this had a middle pickup in it, it would be a little bit in front of it. That's a lot of noise, isn't it? It would be a little bit in front of it. And that's where I seem to find my sweet spot. And luckily, it just so happens, because I rest the edge of my hand right along the strings. I don't put it on the bridge. I put it right along the edge of the strings right here. So I get a light palm mute, not a heavy palm mute. So I get a light palm mute off of it. And that just happens to be the best place for me to hit harmonics. So how do we hit a pinched harmonic? And like I said, now this has been gone over 1,000 times, but we're going to go over it again just for the sake of argument, because I want my video to be complete. What you do is you take your pick, and when you strike the string, what's happening is this little fatty part of your thumb, the edge of the thumb right here, when you pick the string, it is instantly, and I mean instantly, brushing against that string. And that's what causes that particular overtone. And I guess that's why they call them pinched harmonics. I have no idea. And it's very quick. You can't do it slow. You just can't. It's got to be one fluid motion. And when I do them, I can actually feel my pick and the edge of my thumb on the string at the same time. And you just snap that dude off. And then, of course, you got to lift it off. You cannot let the thumb rest on it. But most players play with full-size picks, such as this. Shebang! This is a full-size guitar pick. This is a jazz. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of difference in the size. So if you are using a full-size, let's just drop this over here. If you're using a full-size guitar pick, it's a little harder to do. It's a little harder for me to do, simply because the way I hold a pick, the end of my pick kind of rests right there in the fold of my finger. And that kind of helps us keep the pick from moving around too much. We can kind of grip down on it. Well, when we do that, we have a tremendous amount of pick hanging over here. So you've got all that room you have to make up for to get that thumb up against the edge. And what I have to do is I have to roll my hand this way a lot more when I'm using a full-size pick. I really had, and you can see how much I'm having to hold my hand in. But if you're having trouble with that, the best way to learn it is to actually use a jazz pick, switching picks. Now, this just happens to be an incredibly overpriced, expensive blue chip pick that I use mostly. And I am on the hunt for a different pick, and I'll explain that at the end of the video. So if you have any recommendations at the end of the video, please let me know. But as you can see, as I hold it and I get it into the fold of my finger, there is very little material. If you can even see it, there's very little material sticking out. So it makes it much easier to hit cleaner, stronger, better sounding pinch harmonics. And I'm not having, if you notice, I'm not having to roll my hand this way. I can just come straight in. I can just come straight in, and it just makes it much easier. And if you do like using a full-size pick, if you practice with a jazz pick until you get the technique, then transfer that over to your bigger pick and just roll your hand a little more towards the strings, and you'll start nailing them every single time. Now, like I said, you have to find the key place for you to hit your artificial harmonics. I mean, your pinched harmonics, because they change as you move around. I know guys that play on the bridge, so they pick back here, and their harmonics sound completely different than mine. Mine is right in front of the neck pickup. Right in front, but if I had a center pickup in here, like I said, it would be right between the two. Right about here is where I pick at, right between the two. And you just got to find which one works best for you. And like I said, I'm not going to go over notes and tones, because depending on where you do this, depends on what the note and the tone is. And the principles are completely different as opposed to using a natural harmonic. It no longer follows, since the overtone, the artificial tone, since now it is coming from here and not from the actual string itself, per se with a natural harmonic or a tapped harmonic, then all those rules go out the window. It's a completely different deal when you're doing pitched harmonics. So there's no way for me to cover the notes, the sounds, the overtones, and all that. That would be physically impossible, because we're all going to do it differently all the time. And what may be a D for me may actually end up being a B for you because of where you pick it at. So that is my entire video on harmonics. Everything you need to know about harmonics. The thing about the natural harmonics, very cool. Jump into that, and it's just seriously cool. And like I said, I never really thought about it until I started listening to Eddie Van Halen. Barracuda got me going down the rabbit hole. Eddie Van Halen just kind of pushed me into the rabbit hole. Even after he has passed, still affecting my life. The man was amazing, to say the least. So before I wrap this up, I just want to say one quick thing about picks. I am on the hunt for a new pick. I've been using these blue chip picks. I've been using this one for probably 3 years now. Now, the beauty of it is it doesn't wear. I mean, the wear on this is absolutely minimal, and I absolutely love the pick. The problem is this pick is $40. So obviously, I can't go out and buy 10 of these picks just in case I lose one, because if you lose a $40 pick, you're now sick. And if you're playing a show, you know, as your band, you play a show, everybody gets a cut of the money. And let's be honest, bars don't pay shit anymore, unless you're playing really big venues, which, you know, you can't always play really big venues. Sometimes you play small, shitty venues. Then the money sucks. So if you take 3 of these and you just happen to lose 3 or throw them out to the audience, well, then you just made negative money that night. So I'm on the hunt for a new pick. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know, because I've tried everything. I've got this. I've got a bunch of Jazz 3s. This is what I've accumulated so far. I've got my blue chip. I got a Dunlop, one of the nylon ones, which I'm not a big fan of. It's hard to hang on to. These are those Fender Pro Jazz picks. They're okay. I'm not wild about the tone. This is your standard Jazz 3 that I've been using forever, but trying to get away from that a little bit. Here is another one of the black nylon Jazz 3s made by Dunlop. This is the Stubby. It is an acrylic pick. And actually, it's not bad. It's really thick. This is like a 2.5 millimeter pick. Takes a minute because it has absolutely zero flex. But this actually isn't bad. I've been playing with the Stubby a little bit, and it's actually pretty cool. I'm not completely sold on it yet, but I'm checking it out. But I did pick up a V pick. Now it's a full-size pick because where I was at, they did not have them in Jazz picks. These are acrylic picks too, and I really do like these V picks. They sound good. They have good tone. Granted, it's a full-size pick, and it's a little hard for me to play with it now. And it seems like the wear on was pretty good. When you do a pick slide, it will groove a little bit, not tremendously. And that's the one thing I like about my blue chip is I can slide the hell out of it, and it never grooves. But because it's so slick, it doesn't really give you a very good pick slide either. Here is a Jazz 3. Here is a blue chip. Just a massive difference in the pick slide. And I do like doing a lot of pick slides, and it just doesn't really work that well with this. But the main cost is because they're just expensive picks. And like I said, you go out on a show, playing in a regular bar, they're paying you $600-700, whatever they're paying you for the night. You lose 3 or 4 of these picks, you just played for free. You just lost your ass on it. So I'm trying to figure out an alternative to my pick problem. And what I'm probably going to do is keep collecting all these picks and then just do one big ass pick review, because there's a few things that you may or may not know about picks. But picks, besides the fact some pick slide good, some don't pick slide good, some are too flimsy, some aren't flimsy enough, but they affect your tone drastically. It is shocking how much a pick will affect your tone. A pick, for all intent and purposes, has an EQ to it. Go figure. And it will absolutely change the tone of your guitar. Clean and dirty. You'll notice it a lot more when you're clean, though. Some picks put out a very bright overtone. Some picks put out a very dark overtone. And so I love the blue chip, but it is a touch on the dark side. And on that V pick is a touch on the bright side. So I'm probably going to keep collecting picks for a while to figure out what my next pick's going to be. So if you have any suggestions, comments, or questions, please put it down in the comments section. And I love answering questions. I've been burning it up all week. People with guitar issues texting me like crazy. How do I fix this? How do I do this? And so very cool. If you do leave a question, I will answer your question. Good or bad, it does not matter to me. I will answer your question, respond to you regardless. So if you think you're going to troll me and send me a hate one thinking that I'm not going to reply, you're wrong, because my ass is going to reply. And if you don't like the reply and it pisses you off, you pulled the trigger, bro. You pulled the first punch. You threw the first punch, so don't get upset at me when I reply back. So we're going to wrap it up right there. I hope you enjoy the video. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like and share the video. And on that note, like the great Sammy Hagar says, if you miss the beat, you lose the rhythm, and nothing falls into place. And no matter what you do, for the love of God, rock on.